The X402 protocol is an open payment standard that allows you as a buyer to pay for stuff online without having to use your credit card or create any form of account. And this enables a whole lot of possibilities, like agentic commerce, where AI agents can actually perform transactions and receive payments and make payments because of the X402 protocol. The protocol uses stablecoins for facilitating this transaction. And stablecoins are digital currencies that have the same value as the US dollar. So one stablecoin is equals to $1. The best place to start with X402 is the official documentation, and you can find that at x402.org. X402 is an open protocol for internet native payments. You don't have to pay fees to use the protocol. It doesn't select blockchain. You can use any of the blockchains in existence to make this work. It's secure and it's an open standard, which means you can improve it for your use case. It's fast, settlement is instant, and it's web native, tied to a dormant 402 HTTP status code that is part of the web. In this video, we're going to build a recipe app that allows you as a buyer to buy recipes. It's a very simple app, and it's going to go a long way to understanding the flow and the idea behind X402. Before we begin, I have prepared a very quick high-level explainer of how exactly this flow works and how it happens. And I'm going to show you using this illustration. So this is the X402 recipe store, right? And this is you on one end, and this is the seller. So you are the buyer, and this is the seller. Buyers and sellers are important concepts when understanding the flow for the protocol. You as a buyer needs the recipe from Mama Betty. Mama Betty has a lot of recipes, and you want one of them because you are going to visit your friends for the weekend and you intend to make a special meal. So you do one thing, ask Mama Betty to send you a recipe. I would like one of your recipes. Give me some. But Mama Betty operates a business, and these things are not free. You need to pay for them. It's not free. You need to pay. So when you ask for a recipe, I would like one of your recipes, Mama Betty responds with the 402 status code, and along with it, a message saying payment required. This recipe is not free. You need to pay. You did not know that, but now you know. And alongside this message, she's going to tell you how much it costs, where you need to pay to, the kind of payment she takes. All of that details is going to be packed in this message she sends back to you. With that information now, you go ahead and make a payment. Okay, I've paid. Can I have the recipe? And the way you make the payment is using USDT, USDC, and I mentioned earlier that these are stablecoin currencies that are equal to the dollar. So 1 USDT, right, is equals to 1 USD, right? That's the way you think about these things. Once you make a payment, you tell her and say, you know what, I've made the payment. Can I have the recipe now? But Mama Betty does not know you, and she needs to verify that you actually made a payment. And that's where we're going to introduce another concept in this flow called the facilitator. The facilitator is a key part of this flow, and the function of this is to verify the payments you just made. The facilitator helps the seller verify the payment. It handles a lot of the heavy lifting for that part. So Mama Betty asks the facilitator, this dude says he paid. Did you get a payment? Can I trust that? And this guy goes ahead to verify and confirm and checks, did somebody actually pay Mama Betty this amount of money as he settled? Once the facilitator confirms that, it sends a response back to Mama Betty saying, oh yeah, the money is now in your account. We are good. Mama Betty can now trust that conversation. She can trust that and then process the value that you're requesting, which is in this case a recipe. So she sends you the recipe back. You're happy, she's happy, and that is in a nutshell how this flow is going to work. Let's get started with actually building our application. So for this example, we're going to use Express. It's a web framework that allows us to handle the backend and also the UI for the app. So I'm going to go ahead to create a new directory and call this recipe app. Next, I'm going to change directory into the recipe app, initialize a new node project. So npm init. And if I add the Y flag, it's going to select all the defaults and get me started super fast. So I have this right here. Everything looks good. So let's open this in our code editor of choice. So I just opened it inside my cursor editor. I'm going to install a couple stuff. First of all, we're going to install Express. Another stuff we're going to install is NodeMon, because I'm going to be restarting the server multiple times. I'd rather just use NodeMon to always restart the server when there's a change. And then we're going to install VM. Lastly, we're going to install X402 Express. X402 Express, NodeMon VM, Express as well. And another thing we're going to install is at Coinbase, x402. Now let's install all that, and I would pause this video, and once it's installed, we can get back to it. The packages are now installed and we can proceed. I'm going to clear this terminal so that we can have a cleaner view and everything looks good. We have all the packages installed. Good. All right, so I can close this now, and we are going to create our first file, the index.js file. So I'm going to create a new file right here, the index.js. And this is the file that is going to contain our Express app. We're going to instantiate a new app and do everything right here. And next I also want to create is a folder called public. This is where I'm going to put all the HTML files that is going to contain our UI. So now that we have that, I can actually close that and we can keep writing our code. All right, so what do we want to do in this file? Let me just highlight a couple of the stuff we want to do. We want to create a new Express app, new Express application. We want to create a new Express application. We want to create two routes and the first one will be the root route, which is, and also the recipe app. Right, this is the root route and the recipe route, right? And so we want to create a new Express application. We want to create two routes. So when you go to the root route, which is going to like google.com or localhost 3000, we're going to show something here. And also the recipe route, when you go to localhost 3000/recipe, we want to show something else. So let's do that. So let's create a new Express application. And to do that, we need to import Express. So I'm just going to import Express from Express. And then we're going to create this new stuff. And then once we have that, we need to create our routes. And before I do that, actually, let me actually create the listener for the server. So app.listing, right? And we're going to listen on port 3000. You can actually go ahead and turn this into a variable that you can change, but I'm not going to do all of that. In fact, let's just change it to recipe app right here. Recipe app is running on port 3000. Okay, good. So let's test this. I'm going to just go to package.json quickly and add the start script dev, and we can create it. So you need to add this so that we can actually run npm run dev and the server can start. So once we have this, I don't think I need to touch this file anymore. Can close this, go to our terminal and do npm run dev. And if everything works, our server should be running on port 3000. And we are actually getting an error right here. It's not error, but it's really ugly. So I can fix that by going into our package.json one more time and saying a type of module, and that should fix that. So I just fixed that. So we should not get this error anymore. I'm going to save now and everything should be good. And now we can keep adding our routes. So the next thing to do now is let's create these routes. I'm going to create this route, right? And the way to do that in Express is to do app.get, and you can create it like this. Okay, you see the autocomplete is actually coming into crutch right here and helping. So we have our routes now. Just indent this properly. We have our routes. We have the root routes. If I go to the root route, I'm going to see hello world. If I go to the recipe route, I'm going to see recipe. I can test that. I'm going to go to localhost 3000. And okay, so now you can see it works. We have our hello world right here showing because of that. Now we can confirm our server works. If I go to recipe as well, you can see that it works, right? I'm just zoom that in a bit. You can see it works. The root route goes to hello world and the recipe app goes to recipe. Now, okay, now that we have this basic server set up and everything looks great, the next thing I want to focus on is let's start serving the UI. That's why we created the public folder. So inside here, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to create this index.html. I'm also going to create the recipe.html file. So inside this place, we're going to put the UI for the landing page. And I have prepared an HTML example to do this, so we don't have to write all of that code. So I'm going to just copy that and paste it. So I'm going to paste the code that I have written previously. I'll probably just zoom this out a bit. And it's not special. It's just an HTML page. Nothing special about it. Now, the most important part of this is this button that says when I click this view button, right, go to the recipe page. So this is what this does, right? This is what this does. And we can serve that. Now for the recipe.html page, I also have a page that we can show. And this is the actual page that contains the recipe. And there are several ways you can think about this, but this is the one that I'm going with right now. So I'm going to say this. Now inside our actual project, what I want to do is, before I can start serving files, static files from my project, I need to tell my server where to find them. So the way we do that is by using this simple line of code. This line of code just tells my Express server where to find and serve my static files. And static files are like the index.html, the recipe.html that we just created. And another thing I want to do right now that I probably should do later is to allow my server to parse the body of the request. Now, once we have this set up, I can tell my server that once the user goes to the home route, instead of sending the hello world thing, we're going to actually send the HTML file. And this is how you do that. So I'm going to send the HTML file. And the way this works is it's going to go through that process once again and serve the index.html file. For the recipe app, we're going to do the same thing, right? And thanks to Copilot, I'm going to send the recipe.html file as well. So I'm going to save this. And okay, we have an error right now. Part is not defined. So because we've not imported part, we're going to have that error. And I think that's fixed. So we're back on track. Moment of truth. Let's test. I'm going to go to the home page. And you can see our very ugly page. And the reason why that is ugly is because I haven't added the styling. So let me just go fix that. I'm going to go add the styling. Let me add the styling. So inside here, I'm going to create a styles.css and paste this. And that should actually fix it. So if I refresh this now, okay, it doesn't fix it. Did not fix it. And I guess that's probably because of the import. Style.css. I need to add an S on that. And that should fix that. The recipes.html as well. Probably need to fix that. So styles.css is the right way to do it. I'm also going to. Now next thing is to refresh. And now we have our recipe app. So this is how we look. This is what we're dealing with. The recipe app contains just one card. Mama Betty is out of stock of recipes. She just has one recipe right now. So this is why you see just one card right here. And this is just the simple app we're going to be dealing with. On click redirect to the recipe page. Oh my God. I am using a JavaScript kind of comment. So I'm going to just comment this properly. So now if I click on view, we're going to be taken to the recipe page, right? Okay. You see, this is the recipe. So this is the page we want to protect. We don't want the user to be able to see this until they've paid. Okay. That is very important. Mama Betty does not run a charity. We want to protect this. All right. So that's why we are going to start integrating the paywall using x402. So we want to protect the recipe route. How we're going to do that is I'm going to introduce a new route, and I'm going to call this the authentication route or the paywall route or whatever route that is. But for this demo, I'm going to call it the auth route. So I'm going to create a new route, app.get. Call this the auth, right? And I'm not going to do anything. All I want to do right here is to redirect to the recipe app. So once again, I probably should move this up so it makes more sense. So this new route is doing one thing. If we hit this route, I actually just want to redirect here. So if I can test that out right now is if I go to /auth, right, it's just going to redirect to recipe. So you see that happened. Just look at my header. So if I go to /auth, it's going to redirect to recipe. So it's basically what we have right now. So now what would happen is in my front end, let's now change the recipe to auth, right? Because it does exactly the same thing until we actually implement the paywall. So I'm going to do that. And now if I click this, it's going to first go to auth, and then auth is going to redirect that here. Now let's proceed. So I'm going to close this once again. And now I can do something special. What I can do right now is add the paywall provided by x402. And the way to do that is first we have to import the payment middleware from x402 Express. Now this is important because this is the middleware that is going to track and trap. This is the payments middleware that is going to ensure that we protect the routes that need to be paid. This is the middleware that is going to protect all the routes that is paid routes, all the paid routes in our file. So once we have this payment middleware, let's actually create the middleware. So I'm going to come right here and say payment middleware. Right. Remember that everything we've done up to this point is just when you go to the root route, you see all the recipes. We're going to send you this file. When you go to the recipe routes, previously you see the recipe, but now we introduce this second route that once you hit this, the next thing is to redirect to this other one, right? So now let's use the middleware to actually create a protected route. So the way to do that is to do app.use once again, right? Payment middleware, and inside the payment middleware, we provide a couple things. So what are the options? The first one is the wallet to receive the payment. So ideally, this is going to be Mama Betty's wallet, right? She's the one that wants to receive the payment. So she's the one that is going to provide our wallet address here. And we're going to also give some configurations. So next is to provide the route config. And the way that works with the payment middleware is we're going to create an object. And inside that object, we're going to provide all the routes that we want to protect. So that goes something like this, get/auth. And also give it a price, which is going to be the price of the it's going to be the price that I want to charge before users can perform a GET request to this route. If it is a POST request we want to protect as well, we can configure that right here. But we want to protect it when you make a request to fetch it. So a GET request to /auth will cost this amount of money. And then also we can provide the network. What network do you want to receive the payment on? What network do you want to enforce? What network should the facilitator check to verify? All of that is important. So once we do this, remember it's going to be the wallet address and then this route config. You can just do comma right here and keep listing all the routes you want to release. But we're just going to do just this one for this demonstration. So now that we've used it, we actually need to create it. So I'm going to wallet receive payments is going to be something. Next is the network. And the way you want to do that is provide a string. And for this demonstration, we're going to undo everything on base Sepolia. So this is the base blockchain, but we're not dealing with the mainnet because mainnet requires that you deal with actual currencies. We are dealing with the testnet, which is called Sepolia for most of the chains right now. So this is going to work right now. So we're going to provide the wallets and also the network and this middleware. Now, what happens is this middleware is sort of like before you do something, do this. So let me explain the flow right now. Now we have three routes. We have the root route, which is without adding any of the slashes. We have the auth route. We have the recipe route. The auth route does one thing. It just redirects to the recipe app. Before you can access the auth route, we want to get paid. We can call this paywall, pay, or whatever it is, but this is the place that we want to handle the payment. We want to make sure the user pays before they can reach this resource, right? And this is just a very simple demonstration of the flow. You can tweak this in whatever fashion fits your project, right? Now, before we can access this, we want to get paid. This is what this does. And that's why we have middleware. So middleware, the middleman. Let's test it. So I'm going to go right here and refresh. If I click on this now, we should not be able to access the recipe page. Boom. Did you see what just happened? We are now in the auth route, but it's asking us to pay. And all this UI you are seeing, if you remember, we never set up something like this. I never told you I got anything like this. This is the paywall UI, and this default paywall to UI is provided by the middleware. The middleware is showing us that UI. You can actually make changes to that. You can provide your custom UI, and I'm going to show you how to do that later on. But right now, we're going to just stick with what the middleware provides by default. So it's asking us to make a payment, right? To access this content, please pay 0.001 base Sepolia USDC. And USDC is a stable coin, like I said. Base Sepolia is base testnet, which is where you can play with currencies. The currencies, they are not real, and you can actually get free ones. And it's very important that you claim some if you don't have one. So if I click on this now, I'm going to open, this is the testnet faucet where you can get free stable coins to play with. It's not actually currencies that you can spend, but on the testnet, you can actually spend it because it's not real, right? So I'm going to select base Sepolia here. If I had selected Ethereum Sepolia in my server, I would have to get Ethereum Sepolia testnet tokens, right? So but because we specify base Sepolia, I need to change that to base Sepolia and then provide the wallet address. So I'm not going to use this wallet address because this is the one I provided for the server. This is Mama Betty's wallet right now. I'm going to use a different one, and then I can just copy that and paste that here. So this is the one that would, this is the wallet that is going to be the client, the person that is going to be receiving the recipes, the person trying to get the recipes. So now once you do that, we have claimed some tokens, right? So now that we've claimed some tokens, we've claimed some tokens. The faucet is going to send us 10 testnet USDC. And we can use that to buy recipes from Mama Betty. So now let's go back here. This is our project, localhost 3000/auth. Payment required. Please pay this amount of money to this guy. So this is not my wallet. I can disconnect this and connect a new wallet, and you will see UI like this. You can actually configure this in several ways and provide your own front end for this paywall, but it works right now and it's out of the box, so I don't have to worry about it. So for me, I'm going to use MetaMask, and I'm going to use Brian Agent Q as the person buying, remember? So now I actually have some USDC. I can click this to see how many USDC I have, right? If you want to. Now I can pay. So I'm going to select pay now, and it's going to show you a payment transaction. So all you need to do right now is just to confirm. And before you confirm, make sure you check that this is actually making the right deduction. So it's 1,000 right here because on the blockchain, we don't deal with decimals. So what happens usually is that they turn those decimals into multiples. So now I can confirm this, and it's going to use the facilitator. This is going to fail. It's not going to go ahead and do anything right now. Why? Because we forgot to specify the facilitator. You see, the request came back once again and is asking me to make a payment, right? And that's because there is no facilitator to check and verify this. And we failed to provide a facilitator when specifying our payment middleware. So let's cancel this now and head back to our code and take a look at the payment middleware once again. So like I said, we are providing the address to receive the payment. We are specifying the routes. One more thing we need to actually provide is the facilitator. Right? We're going to provide the facilitator. And the facilitator is an object. This is how you provide the facilitator. You provide an object and then you specify the URL or the facilitator. And you specify the URL of the facilitator, which is someone that will verify the transactions on chain for you. And there's several facilitators out here. There is the actual x402 facilitator, but I'm going to use a different facilitator today. There's actually the default x402 facilitator that you can use, but for this demo, I'm going to use the PayAI facilitator. And PayAI is Solana's first multi-network x402 facilitator. Even though it says Solana, we can actually use this for our base project as well. So you can go ahead and read more about it. But this is an agent that is going to verify transactions on chain for Mama Betty, for the store. And we don't have to do all of that for ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and try x402 facilitator. And for base Epolia, you can see they have a couple links right here, right, that you can use to do it. So they have a couple links right here. I'm going to just copy one of them and provide our facilitator URL as this. So you can go ahead and use PayAI's facilitator as well, right? I'm going to leave the link in the description. So PayAI facilitator has been added, and now our project is actually properly completed. Now this will work. This will not fail. So we provided a wallet where the money is going to be sent to. We told it what route it needs to actually get the payment for. And also what we also did is we added the facilitator that is going to confirm and check that the payment went through. If you did not specify this, I think it might still work because in the documentation it says that this is optional, right? But I've been getting timeout error from the default facilitator URL. You can see timeout error. I don't know why that is happening, and really it's sad. It took me a bunch of debugging to fix. It took me a lot of debugging to fix last night on the stream. So I'm just going to use PayAI's facilitator network instead. So now once we have this, our server has restarted. You can see it has restarted. Let's now do this flow again. So I'm going to go back to our project and I'm going to refresh this, right? Once again, it's going to connect to our wallet. We need to disconnect this one. Can do a MetaMask again. Connect to Brian's agent. Connect. Once we are connected, I can see that I have enough USDC. It wants to charge me this amount on base Epolia. Very good. I can pay. And before I do that, I actually think I need to show you where the status code comes from. If you actually inspect your console and you refresh the page, you would actually see that we get this payment request initialized response here. And I did not console log this anywhere in our code, as you can tell. These are a bunch of stuff, but this contains a number of details to what we need to provide for our payment. So this is what I said. When I told you that Mama Betty sends back error 402 with payment required, this is what I meant, right? She sends back with details that you can use to pay. Okay? And that is what this is. So this is the payment requirement, right? The assets that you're dealing with, which is USDC, this is the contract address for that. The maximum amount required, which is how much you're actually charging, where you're paying to, the resource you're trying to access, the network, all of those details. You can actually flesh that to make that more detailed for your project, but this is the base. This is what you're dealing with. So I think there are configurations to make it more specific. Right, so now that we've seen that, we can also check out the network. If I refresh this to show you the response, that's the status codes, we can see that we see an error right here. And this is where we can see the headers. So it's sending back the status code. It's sending back the status code 402 payment required. You can see that right here. This could be easily be 200 OK that you can see here, 200 OK, but now 402 payment required. That is what x402 actually mean. Okay, now that we've seen that, let's pay. Once again, we initialize the payment, click confirm, and this time it works. We've just gotten paid and we've been able to access the recipe route. This is the transaction for what we just did, 0.001 1 minute ago, so just 2 minutes ago right now. And what we did is we sent USDC from this. If you remember, this is our address as the buyer. I can show you once again our address as the buyer, which is Brian. You can see, right, 5817F 817F to the buyer, which is Lab X2, if you can remember that, which is 977 and we sent out 0.001. right? This is the transaction that we just did, and all of that is powered by x402. And now we see our recipe. Okay, we can see our recipe. So a couple of things that you might be curious about is how can you customize the UI for the paywall? Well, you can provide config right here, right? And then you can specify a bunch of stuff. Or you can provide a custom paywall HTML. It takes a string, right? Provide the string for the paywall UI. It's going to render the HTML. But if you're going to do this in Next.js, there are other interesting ways to get this done. But I'm going to leave the UI for the paywall as it is right now. X402 is unlocking new possibilities, and I'm happy that you got to see this and start using it in your own projects today. Thanks so much for watching this one, and I will see you in the next guide. Cheers.